My wife is not the same anymore. She has changed drastically. When we met in high school, she was a simple person, not very concerned with money or appearance. Our story began when I was 15 and she was 17. At that time, she was the only family I had, having lost my mother and never known my father. Our relationship started as a sincere friendship, and she was by my side in the most difficult moments of my life. Over time, our feelings grew, and we started dating when I was 17, getting married 7 years later. What enchanted me the most about her back then was her simplicity and affection. She was successful, working in big companies, while I was a community paramedic. Despite earning less, I loved what I did. Everything changed when she received a job offer at a large company with a salary 4 times higher, but it would require us to move. I agreed to support her career and take care of the house while looking for a new job. It was at that moment that she went through a surprising transformation. She started to value luxury brands, jewelry, and cars, something that never interested her before. She also started going out a lot with her co-workers, which surprised me because she was never extroverted or very social. However, I was happy for her and believed she had finally found her place. The happiness disappeared when she started coming home later and later, hardly having time to talk to me. She went out with co-workers, posted pictures on social media, but didn't respond to my messages. The most painful moment was when she invited me to have lunch with her co-workers. I was hopeful, thinking it could be the beginning of a reconciliation. However, she was ashamed of my simple and inexpensive car in front of her colleagues and insulted me. That's when I realized the woman by my side was no longer the same person I married. Now, she is always out, celebrating the company's success, while I'm at home dealing with divorce papers. I've tried to talk to her several times, explain how I feel, but she doesn't listen to me. She says she doesn't have time and downplays the situation, claiming she hasn't changed. She no longer wants children or to travel, prioritizing her career. Despite everything, I still have hope that somewhere inside her, the woman I loved still exists. Even though it seems unlikely, I'm reluctant to discuss divorce. This is my story. I turned down one of my best friends whom I had romantic feelings for. I was 30 years old when I met Paula, who was 28 at the time, 3 years ago, in an amateur soccer league. From the beginning, I fell in love with her. Another guy from the league, whom I'll call Marcos, also liked her and was part of our group of friends formed in the league. After more than a year, our friendship deepened and I fell even more in love with her. I was hesitant to jeopardize our friendship, but I decided to open up and ask if she would like to explore something more. She told me she loved me as a friend, but didn't want a relationship at that time. Even with a broken heart, I moved on. Less than 2 months later, she started dating Marcos, and it became clear that she wasn't avoiding relationships, just not with me. I believe my romantic feelings for her ended at that moment, because I'm someone who desires the same enthusiasm and feelings from a partner as I give to her. Nevertheless, I continued to be her friend, and our friendship endured. I left the soccer league because my professional life intensified after I was promoted to CFO of my company, and I simply didn't have time for it anymore. We still kept in touch, and occasionally we hung out together. Paula and Marcos even went out with us, my sister, and friends to have fun. Paula even became friends with my sister, which made me happy because I like to see her surrounded by amazing people. A few months ago, Paula and Marcos ended their relationship, which surprised everyone because they seemed so good together. In recent weeks, with the help of Paula and my sister, I found out that Marcos was abusive, having been emotionally, psychologically, and even physically violent. The abuse escalated in the last months of their relationship, and she even had photos of the marks on her body. I feel deeply sorry for her, and she has been spending more time with us. I believe she is on the path to recovery, but maybe she should consider seeking therapy to confirm it. Last weekend, we were drinking wine in my kitchen, and in a relaxed moment, I believe she initiated a kiss. We kissed for maybe 7 to 10 seconds before I stopped and tried to ease the situation with a joke about the wine. She agreed, laughed, and went home. The next morning, she was at my door and wanted to talk. She said she was in love with me, and that we could start something we should have initiated years ago when I confessed my feelings to her. I told her I loved her as a friend, but not romantically, and that it wouldn't be a good idea. She seemed incredibly hurt and asked if it was because she had rejected me, and I said no. But I don't think she believed me. My sister also accused me of being vindictive and petty, claiming that I didn't accept Paula when she chose someone else over me and that she was manipulated into a relationship by a narcissist and then suffered abuse. I'm confused about what to do, because I don't want to lose a friend and ruin my close relationship with my sister. I caught my parents and I regret it. When I arrived home unexpectedly, I found my parents about to have an intimate moment. However, my mom was dressed exactly like me since I'm 18, and I wasn't expected to come home until later. This is common for me these days, as I spend a lot of time at a friend's house, and we often do activities, like swimming in the pool. That day, we decided to go for a drive and do some shopping. Since I didn't have any money with me, I planned to get some money from home before we went to the mall. Upon entering the house, I found my parents on the couch. My mother was on my father's lap, teasing him, and it was clear that they were about to have an intimate moment. Her dress was pulled down, and they were kissing. They froze when they saw me, which was understandable, since they weren't planning on being interrupted. I was also paralyzed. After a few seconds, I realized that my mom was literally wearing one of my favorite dresses that I used to wear all the time. The dress wasn't particularly revealing, just an ordinary sundress. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that she had done her hair and worn makeup the way I usually did, even though she rarely wears makeup. It was clear that she went through my things. She looked like a carbon copy of me, and that made me deeply uncomfortable. We all stared at each other in shock for a few seconds before my mum said, "I'm so sorry, honey." I ran out of the house and was crying when I got to my friend's car. I began to explain what I had just witnessed, and she tried to calm me down. However, my mother left the house still wearing my dress, and I asked my friend to drive before she got to the car. We went back to her house and didn't give her parents any details, other than she said she had family problems. As we have been friends for a long time, they offered me the possibility of staying at her house for a few days until things were sorted out. I couldn't sleep well that night, and every time I close my eyes, the image comes back to me. I'm not upset that my parents were having an intimate moment, but rather that they were about to have it while my mom wore one of my favorite dresses and looked exactly like me. She and I have never shared clothes, and I'm having a hard time rationalizing why she would get this dress unless it was what I interrupted her for. My mom tried to contact me several times, but I just texted her to let her know where I was and said I needed time before I was ready to talk to them. She responded again, apologizing and wanting me to come home to talk. However, I don't believe I can do that yet. Even writing this, I start to shake with nervousness. I do not know what to do now. I've never felt unsafe in my own home, but I also don't feel comfortable being around my parents now that I know they were literally pretending she was me. I'm so disgusted that I want to burn every item of clothing I've ever owned. Update. I'm still staying at my friend and her family's house while I try to figure out what to do next. My friend suggested that I should talk to a therapist before talking to my parents. I called a therapist I had spoken to a few times in the past, and she was able to schedule an emergency session that helped me understand what I saw, my concerns, and create a list of questions to ask my mother when I was ready to talk to her. We met in a park near our house. We sat away from people. My friend and her boyfriend went with me for moral support, but they left me to talk to my mother alone. I'm still trying to figure out what to do from now on, and it's likely that I'll need to explain the full situation to my friend's parents, who have been understanding and willing to let me stay in their guest room for a few months while I figure out another solution. Also, I'm trying to get more work hours. End of stories. If you like the stories, leave your like on the video and watch more by clicking on the video that appears now. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like.